Happy Cows.
My name is Helen, and I also play for Happy Cows.
And this is Scooberlicious Ultimate. We're here with our coach, Geoff Rexroth, and Lawrence.
And today we are talking about us.
Awesome. That was good. Make yourself comfortable. Come on over, Coach. Yeah, we were trying to be fun, supportive. We're getting all set up together. How you doing? Let me get the filter going. So, Geoff, congratulations.
Thank you.
This was an awesome show. We're slowly getting everything hooked up.
Yeah.
We have a microphone now after that fantastic intro. Thank you. So has it sunk in, your typical intro question? Has it sunk in yet?
No. No, it is not. I've watched the game a lot, like at least 5 or 6 times, and I always think we're going to lose halfway through the game. And so it's really nice to finally watch a game all the way through and know that we actually get to win at the end. Yeah.
So, I watched it a couple times, and I started to look at it, the ebbs and flows of the games, and I was always wondering that. I could understand why you had the conclusion, because there were times where it looked like it could have gone off the rails, and you pulled it back in, and you were so cool. Yeah. So, ladies, you were there. How did it look? Because we're going to start a little bit about the tournament and the finals. Then we're going to start talking about the Happy Cows in general. Then we're going to go back and specifically sort of look at different pieces of it. But just the 30,000-foot view, how did it feel?
I think the whole thing about the YCC's tournament was that every game you played in, it felt like every point mattered so much because you knew if they scored one break, then they were going to get a run. So I remember, especially in semifinals, we had a score that was pretty different. I think we won by 5 points or something. But I remember being terrified the whole way through because I knew if they got one break, they were going to have a run. And I think that was the mood for most of the tournament and most of the games we played. And that just carried through to the final. So, yeah, I was really scared when Seattle was up because I knew that if we didn't stuff them, they were going to keep getting runs on us.
Interesting.
Yeah. No, it's definitely a game of momentum. So especially in finals when we were starting to make some mistakes and fall apart at the edges, it was kind of we really need to pull this back because we can't let them keep getting breaks on us, no matter how close the score is, because if we don't pull the momentum going into the final points, it's going to be really hard to win this and not have another second place.
Not another second place. So let's put a pin on that story. I want to get the initial emotions. Thank you, ladies. Thank you, Coach. So let's step back and talk about the Happy Cows in general. How long have the Happy Cows been around?
The Happy Cows have been around for 8 years, and I've been the coach for all 8 years.
All 8 years. And so you've seen the ebb and flow.
Very much.
You started out with 2 championships.
Yep.
Very good. Did you think, this is going to be easy? We're just going to continue to enjoy this?
No.
You had a couple 4s, and then you had a series of second places.
Yep.
And one of which was last year against what was it?
Swing Vote
from out of DC, where you had the infamous rain delay.
Mm-hmm. I think the rain delay one was 2.
Was it 2 years?
2 years ago.
Okay, my bad. So that was the
both of them were epic.
so my bad research. So
no, you're fine.
Thank you. So 2 years ago you had this sort of the epic rain delay, and then you come back, and then they swing vote wins in the last seconds. That particular situation, when I talked to the parents, it seemed to be very scarring, very impressionable. What did you take away from that? And did anything come with it that helped you shape the team on where they needed to be mentally, regardless? Yeah,
I think the year prior to that, we had also lost in the finals to Oregon. And so going in to that game, it was a very tight game the whole time. And then when we lost on Universe eventually, it was just one of those things that, sometimes you just have a bad game. Sometimes you just have a bad few points, and you just never know when they're going to come. And sadly, in that year, we just had our worst 3 points in those last 3 points.
Wow.
And sometimes that just happens. That's the kind of crazy thing. And I told the team this year that the finals is crazy. And sometimes the game goes your way and sometimes it doesn't. And hopefully it does go your way.
Right.
But But as we were talking about the ebb and flow of the game, it can be up and down real quick. So I just kind of let them know that we had an amazing season. What we did as a team is really what's really about winning, and that it is rough. But I know that you'll learn a lot from this, and this will definitely grow your character from this.
And from a coaching standpoint, I think that is where a coach needs to stand up, because it's good to be a good coach when you're winning.
Yeah.
But it's how you deal when the team is losing, or when you're getting through a patch like that, where you've got to definitely put salves on emotion and put some Band-Aids on people's feelings and get them out on the field to perform at a high level next time.
Absolutely. And the other thing is that we had gone into that one undefeated. So we were at that moment, I think 5-0 or 6-0. We'd already beat DC in pool play. So coming back and then just losing by a hair was tough, but I think that the players took it really well as they could have. And I mean, I was a little emotional too, because it's just a tough way to lose, and then we did it again the next year.
weren't you part of the?
Yeah, I was on the team.
How was that, Robin? Yeah.
Well, I actually had to leave early to catch my flight. I had to leave 2 points before the game ended, and I was in the airport and I didn't know we had lost yet, and then I met this guy from Seattle who was like, "Oh yeah, I heard you guys lost in the finals, blah blah blah," and I just started crying. And he wouldn't stop talking, and it was really awkward. But, yeah, but it was really hard, and it was hard being on a plane and not being able to be there, because the year before I'd been there with our team, because our team dynamic for Happy Cows is very much like a family. So it was really hard feeling like I wasn't there with my family, and I was just by myself. And it was hard knowing that there were so many people on that team who deserved to win so much, because they were such great players and such great teammates. And it was hard feeling like I had let them down and they had been let down by not winning.
Interesting. And that was sort of what I was segueing in. Do you want to chime in on that one as well?
I wasn't on the team 2 years ago. I watched the live stream, but was not there.
So one of the things I wanted to segue about, sort of building on that, and Geoff, Coach mentioned how you were talking about shaping team culture. And part of that is, you're shaping your culture, understanding how the ebbs and flows of the game, the emotions involved, being right there on the precipice about to win, having a good team come in with high expectations and not meeting those for whatever reason. There's a learning curve, and there's a growing. So going into this season, all these pieces coming together, what was your approach?
For this season?
Yeah, for 2017.
Well, I think so. Last year when we lost in the finals, we were all okay, we have to come back next year, and we have to put it away. And so we spent the entire high school season. We all played together in high school and stuff, talking about how we were going to come back to YCCs and we were going to win gold. And then right before our season started, I ended up talking with Mike and Jeremy, who ended up being my other co-captains. And Jeremy was bringing up these points about how he wanted to make sure that we built a family before we focused on winning. And so my whole mentality that I'd had that whole year leading up to tryouts completely changed just from talking to him. And then so the mentality I went into the season with was really different than what I had expected it to be. And that was that at the end of the day, and Geoff has mentioned this a lot, he mentioned this a lot during the season, it's that what you remember is not whether you won or lost, it's all the things that built up to the moments.
Sure.
And so we as captains really tried to create a team culture where it wasn't we win or nothing, it was that everything we do matters because we're here for each other, and if we win, then we accomplish something great, but if we don't win, then we still accomplish something great.
Nice.
Yeah, it was a lot about family this year. It was about family last year too, but this year the focus was all the work you put into it is for your family, is for Happy Cows. And so on the field, you're on the field, but you're doing this for your teammates also. So every point at nationals, you felt like you were being carried, and you were carrying everybody else. Everything mattered. Everyone was on your side. If you screwed up or you did something great, they were always there supporting you.
Nice.
So it was really nice. You had the pressure to win, but it was also we can get through this. We have people supporting you. It's not just one against the other team. That
can be awkward, and I'm going to have you chime in a second, that if you mess up and there's that weird silence and no one's there to go, hey, right, but it's nice to know you have the team has your back, and vice versa, because they're going to want to be able to pick you up. And so how was that with this, when you saw the team sort of developing this culture?
Yeah, the one thing that I thought Happy Cows had built over the 8 years was besides the culture of like winning, which is nice, was the culture of like togetherness and how players seem to want to play for the program because of what the culture meant and what they knew that they would be like putting their summer towards. And so like when you dedicate 2 months or like 9 weeks to a 1 weekend tournament, sometimes it can be hard to find the reason why to get out of bed to go do your workouts or to get to practices when you can easily get out of them. Right. So when Jeremy and then Robin was actually the first captain that I asked to be a captain, when they were kind of talking more culture than anything, more than winning, I knew that was going to be the right choice, especially this being my last year, is that I wanted this to go out with the culture that I know this program has always had, and so seeing my alumni now, that culture has just carried on, and now it's this great relationship. And we don't even talk about the tournaments; we just talk about how loving and fun the team itself was. So I knew that they were gonna take it and kill it.
Nice, very good. So what were the qualities of the ladies that you wanted to be captain?
I thought
even Jeremy too.
Yeah, for sure. No, yeah, absolutely. I think that with having captains, I really wanted people that were a little different from each other, and that they had different mindsets, so they could cover a big span of things. So with Robin, she was very smart about the game. She thought she was always thinking ahead of it, and very much pro culture. Sometimes when you pick captains, you get them like they want to win so badly especially because they're the captains. That it can kind of deter from what the real thing is. That is that we are all experiencing this great tournament, this great adventure that we call YCCs in the summer program. So with Robin, it was an easy choice because she was so culture forward, but I knew that deep down that there was a strive to win, which is always nice.
Very cool. Yes.
Yeah. Awesome. And then Jeremy, he had just come off of. Sadly, sitting on the sideline because he'd been injured at SLO, San Luis Obispo, all year. But he has a great mind for the game. He was on Team USA last summer, I think it is, and so he had an amazing mind. So, and then we had Mike Pang, who he was there just because I knew that a lot of players would want to follow him. I didn't know how and why, but I knew that they would. And then it just over our group message board, it was definitely we found out why he was one of the captains with his get hydrated memes and like photos at 5 a.m. Because he went to bed at 9 p.m. And then he would send out like memes about getting to bed early too. So I kind of took them at the end. They were all like the mind, body, and soul of the team, and they really picked up where the others left off. And I just thought that they all three did an amazing job.
Very cool. So I just want to talk about a couple highlights of these ladies here. Robin, you played for the women's national team of Denmark.
Yeah.
So you went to Poland.
No, so I played for the women's team, not the youth team, so I was in London.
Ah, London, very good. How was that experience?
That was, I was on the team as a growing player, but it was really amazing. I was the youngest by 5 years, but so I thought I would feel really isolated and removed from everyone else, but they really took me under their wing, and they were very supportive. And that team also the reason I became so focused on team culture was because of that team. Denmark doesn't have a great ultimate program in the terms of diversity and having lots of levels of skill. They have a lot of really good players, but the depth isn't quite there yet. So our coach focused a lot on building up our team culture and making sure that we understood how to communicate to each other, because going to Worlds, we were going to play teams like Canada and the US and Japan and stuff like that were way better than us, and there's no way we could beat. So that's coming from that team, that's where I started thinking about team culture and establishing clear modes of communication between teammates so that there's no unnecessary tension developed. And But like overall, it was a really, really great experience, and it made me understand like why Spirit and Ultimate is so important.
So why was that? Just
Because we played so many teams where like English isn't an easy language.
So the commonality of the language.
Yes, but like we would still have Spirit circles where there'd be people from like the Czech Republic who were struggling to speak English, but we would still like take the time to understand what the other team was saying in terms of Spirit, and I thought that was really special.
Very nice, very good. So, Helen, you took third in the state in high school mountain biking. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, I picked up mountain biking almost exactly a year from now, like a year ago. And it's been really fun, but it's been a little difficult because it interfered a lot with high school ultimate frisbee. So my high school team, I kind of abandoned a bit this spring, which I felt bad about because I was doing mountain biking and I was really enjoying it. So that's been tough to like mountain bike and play frisbee and try not to abandon one. But it's definitely been an enjoyable experience to do both, and then to come to Jeff's team in the summer and abandon mountain biking. But just a little bit.
So is there anything from the sport, simply from the pure endurance, or are there any other disciplines that you've been able to make ultimate frisbee be smoother transition?
Cross country running has definitely made frisbee not easier, but like the fitness part of it has been easier to adapt to because of that, and I love running.
Helen's very, very, very in shape and really, really does a lot of physical stuff. So she's like our fitness model, like role model in every.
We've already had a practice, a 3-hour practice. Yeah.
Whatever. That's awesome.
One time we got a picture of her and she was like wearing a headlamp and running because it was like 4:30 in the morning and it was too dark outside to run without a headlamp.
That's a
So, yeah. And then someone else on the team also happened to be up at that time and they were talking in our group message, but he was up because he was watching anime and pulling an all-nighter. Yeah.
Okay, that was a good one. So
yeah.
So let's. Is there anything else you can talk about? Developing the team this year and the culture. Any other things that you thought? Well, because we talked about the overall approach to mixed. Mm. You had a philosophy, and I'm wondering, did it start from you and go down? Was there a meeting of the minds with that?
Well, I think the philosophy of playing mixed really started years ago, because I mean the women's youth side is pretty small. We couldn't have a U20 women's team this year because we just didn't have the numbers. They finally had a U17 team that had more than 13 players for the first time. So years ago, it definitely was more male game and have a say on how they want their game to be played. And then I think the first year we lost to Swing Vote in the finals was one of our first years that it seemed really, really, really co-ed and very the girls were carrying their own and they were also stepping up as leaders. And then it built on that year and year after that. And I think that this year just was the perfect year where the stars aligned and really the guys and the girls really just blended together culturally, mentally they got it, and strategically they were figuring it out. And we tried in the finals the boys tried to take it over, as some people saw, and then the girls really stepped up their game and brought the title back. So definitely culture takes a while. It definitely took a lot of years for me to grow as a mixed coach. But I think that now seeing it, what it can be, has changed me out in Turlock, where I coach middle school and high school ultimate, and we play co-ed in both those divisions. So it's changed me, I would think, for the better. But it's years. It's not overnight at all.
Sure. What's your view on mixed? You're mixed. How do you like the dynamics of mixed?
I really enjoy mixed. I played for Jeff's mixed team, and then my high school team is semi-mixed because you don't have enough girls to have a full mixed team. But I've had really good experiences with it. I haven't had a lot of bad experiences mixed. But definitely in high school leagues, There's girls, like a couple girls on each team, but oftentimes they're not really included. They're just kind of like shoved off to the side or like viewed as like the weakest player, which kind of I don't agree with. Like, you can't just do that to them. And so to come to like Geoff's team where it's not even a question. Like, all the girls, all the boys play together. They can play together. They respect each other. There's no question about like a girl not deserving playing time or like a boy not respecting a girl. So I've had really good experiences with it. I think it's great to see boys encouraging girls, girls encouraging boys, to go both ways. I think it's an incredible experience.
Yeah, it's a cool thing to see.
I actually don't particularly like makes.
Oh, snap. All right,
Yeah.
cut. Right, go ahead.
I love playing on Happy Cows. I would say, like, I was talking this summer, and like, if Happy Cows weren't the mixed team that it is, I would definitely have wanted to play women's. I like playing women's a lot more. Like, I played on Cali Roll, I played on the Danish women's team, and just I like that dynamic more in general. But I think Happy Cows is different from any other mixed team I've played on, and that's, I mean, a large part due to the fact that Geoff is so good at coaching mixed, and he's really good at picking the players that he puts on the team in terms of like making sure, like, guys do tend to try to dominate mixed games, but I think he does a great job in picking guys to put on the mixed team that are really open to the other gender and really like look past gender in a sense. And so one thing that we were all commenting on was after we were watching the recap of our game, and the commentator was making all these comments about how we're using gender to be more strategic and stuff like that. But like, our mace game wasn't really based on gender at all. Like, our mace game was like seeing the individual and seeing what their skills were irrelevant of their gender, and then playing to that strength.
What, along those lines that Robin mentioned, what was the strategy when you were going 7-9?
Well, it definitely depended on the game. When we got to the finals, I kind of built a strategy to give the legs of my like starting type players as much rest as possible in semis and quarters and in pool play. So we really tried to play as much even line as possible. And then getting into the finals, it was different. It was kind of like yeah. So it definitely got the points got a little tighter. The starters got a lot more play time. Some people were put in certain roles. I think Helen played majority, 99.9% defensive line. And so people just they got in their roles, and I think from setting it from the beginning that just everyone needs to embrace their roles, and whatever your job is, just do that job as best as you can. And I think that everyone really got that aspect of it. And I think that I'm really glad Robin said that it was that they didn't really see gender. They saw like, is the player open, and they saw the like strategy of the individual.
Exactly. That's very nice. So let's step into the game.
Yep.
I looked at the game as far as quarters, the way it happened. So you're huddling up. We're here. Mm-hmm. This is what it's about. Take me through the huddle. What was? I know there was butterflies. I'm sure there was butterflies going in. But what were you talking to the team?
Well, the funny thing is, actually, right after the semifinal game, like we had just won, and last year Helen caught the game winner against Minnesota, who we also beat in semis this year. And so when she caught the game winner, like everyone was jumping up and down, everyone's so excited, like, yeah, we just made finals, and everyone's like running up and hugging. And then after this one, Robin did mention earlier, we only won by 5 or 6. But at one point, it was 14-5, so we were running away with the game. And then all of a sudden, they started getting a run, and it was like, uh-oh, like, are we really going to choke a 14-5 lead in this? And so then, like, when the game was finally over, it was nothing but crickets. Like, everyone just got in line. They did the high five line. We all went to the shade to do a little quick like powwow because we had like a 2-hour break before the next game, before finals. And it was just dead silent, which the year prior, it was very like, everyone was just so excited. Oh my God, finally we're here. Like we made it to the finals, yay. And then this one was dead silence, and no one was happy. Everyone was scared. I think Talia said that she thought she was going to vomit, like right after that game, knowing that she's not like, oh, we're now in the finals.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah. No, I could see that. So, I mean, going in, you almost blowingly, you win.
Mm-hmm.
You've had 2 hours to think about, this is what it's about. What's going through your mind?
It was everyone was very zoned in. It was quiet, but it wasn't like it was subdued. It was just like this like sense of like, it was almost like this like powerful kind of like, we're here and like we can be quiet and just kind of like zone in and like really get where we need to be as a team. We don't need to be screaming at each other. We don't need to be like jumping up and down. Like we can just come in, like know what we're doing. Like we've been here several times in the past. So it was kind of cool. Like it was kind of like the calm before the storm. Like everyone, we weren't unhappy. We were just like very like, okay, like this is why we're here. Like there's no reason to celebrate yet. Like we still have a job to do. So we were ready for that.
Right.
I felt a little bit differently, actually. I had messed up, like, the point before we won. Like, this was in semifinals, and I made a really bad mistake, and I think it actually cost us that point. And that was just adding to their run. And so I was, like, getting down on myself. I was really upset I'd made the mistake. And it was hard for me because, like, all season, I knew that I had to be a captain and I had to, like, step above myself and be more supportive of the team than sometimes I knew how to be of myself.
Sure.
And I wasn't always very good at that. And sometimes my emotions would get in the way. And so after we won semis, I think my emotions got in the way. And I knew that I needed to be more hyped and I knew I needed to, like, try to lift the team up. But right after that game, I just wasn't ready for it. And I took those, like, 2 hours, and I, like, called my dad. I, like, went and, like, sat in a field, and I really just, like Helen was saying, like, zoned into, like, me and just, like, stepped away from the team for a sec. And then when we got into warm-ups, it was, like, we all locked in again. And I think one thing, though, that you didn't mention that's, like, really important to note is that, like, we were all so nervous going into finals because a lot of us have been waiting for a whole year to be there again. And now, like, not only had this whole year built up to this moment and it was about to be over, but, like, after this, like, Happy Cows wasn't going to really be a team anymore. So it was, like, a lot of emotions from everyone. And in a situation like that, when you drop stuff in warm-ups, you can imagine that people would start yelling at each other and be like, hey, come on, focus up and stuff like that. But it was nothing but supportive. And I think we somehow reached, like, a clarity in our warm-ups that, like, we realized that, yeah, we wanted to win, but we wanted to
but they, I think that having us, we've played each other before. There's always been kind of this like rivalry going on, and then us beating them, and we also beat them without Jeremy, one of our captains, because he had an ankle injury in our very first game. So we didn't actually get to play. He didn't actually get to play in that game. So I wasn't quite sure what was going to go on. And also, we had played such a flawless game there. Like, we didn't get broken once during the game. And after...
In your head,
right, so, and it wasn't Evan Lepler, but it was the guy that does the stadium announcing for all of the finals.
Right.
So he was doing the announcing for our finals. So anytime there was a score or a catch, it was that beautiful God voice of his. And so I didn't add any more pressure. I was just like, hey, remember to trust in the process. Remember what we
focus, like thinking about like what's so I don't know what you said. I'm sure it was good.
While we were setting up, did you say you didn't even have any emotions?
Yeah, no, like there's no time. Like you just have to like think about like what you're doing, what's happening. I hope he said something good. He must have. It worked out well, I'm sure.
We started well.
Yeah, it went well. See,
I think Michael actually said something really good in that circle, to be honest.
What did he say?
He, like, bringing back that, like, we weren't trying to make a big deal out of it being finals, and Michael was just like, you guys, this is just another game. And he didn't even, like, try to, like, lock us in and, like, bring it down low or intense. He was just like, we're out here with the birds, this beautiful grass, look at this sky, we're just going to play some multi. And I have a lot of respect for Michael for the person he is and being able to, like, add some humor to that really nerve-wracking situation we were in.
He had a solid game. Yep. Such a chill, so to think he played locked in.
Yep.
So it was really
well, and it's funny because Mike, after last year's loss in the finals, he started his freshman year at UCLA, and so I would get messages on Facebook in like August or September, and they're like, hey, I'm doing recruiting down here. I'm pumped for the next season. I'm like, man, you just started college.
Yeah.
Like, worry about your college season. You're already talking about
We would get Snapchats from Michael, and he'd be like, I don't even care about college, like any of it. I'm just out here to like get ready for YCC.
Yeah, it was so funny.
Yeah.
Okay, that explains why he has such low grades. What, a 2.8?
Totally, yeah. But for someone that was so hyped, and then
That's
he
great.
like just chills out at the very end.
Beautiful. That's beautiful. So let's break down the game. You ignore my hieroglyphics here. So you trade points to third, and then you go 2 up. Mm-hmm. How you feeling? Things are going as planned.
Feeling good. Yeah, I definitely thought it was kind of going. It was going how I would expect. I was hoping it would go. Yeah, it definitely worked out. Yeah.
And then they go on their run. So I mean, there's some nice. Yeah. So you look at Lauren had a solid game. Athena had a solid game. They had great grabs throughout. Jeremy was all over the place, but they won their run. Mm-hmm. They won in their they win the half. Mm-hmm. Is half important?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Half is important emotionally. You want to be able to win half.
I don't know if it's important in that way, but it's like the game kind of takes a break there, and so half is so important because it's like you could come back really strong or you could come back and not have it. Yeah. And I feel like we kind of came back and we didn't have it actually. Mm-hmm. We came back and they got a break on us right away, and that was really scary being on the sideline, being on the field for that, because like you could feel that we were starting to get like really low on energy.
Yeah. So hang on. So you're at halftime. Mm-hmm. What's your feeling at halftime? Because they close out the half. They win the half. Mm-hmm.
They win it, Helen.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it's over.
Sorry,
Sorry,
I'm
done.
Dramatic mode. So yes, ignore. Please. So no big deal.
It was kind of surreal. Like, it was hard. It was like, okay, so we're at half and finals, and we're down. That's fun. It was just kind of like, it's like, you're just thinking to yourself, like, we're down in finals again. Mm-hmm. And so you have to, like, kind of, it was hard. It was like, you almost, like, didn't realize what was going on. It was, like, it was hard to, like, process. It was like, I mean, you're going to go out there and, like, play hard again. Sure. But it was like, wow, like, we have to take this game back. We can't just cruise through it anymore. Like, we're here to fight. And it was the first time, I mean, like there's been like tough games like leading up to the finals, but like that was the first time where it felt like we're down and like
that was the first time we were down.
I can remember.
Yeah,
we
lost too.
Well, we like
team you beat.
Right.
Who had lost earlier in pool play.
Yep.
Yeah, so it was just weird. It was the first feeling for like us this year, and so it was like we can't let this happen again. So it's like kind of like having like get over that and like come back from that was hard.
One thing that really helped me though was like after they scored that break out of half was like actually like shout out to like Aftershock and the Red Dawn and Belly the Beast players, because like I feel like our sideline kind of dropped our voice a lot, and then like Aftershock started doing their shock it up cheer, and that kind of made me snap out of it personally. I don't know if that helped other people on the team, but like having that whole Bay Area sideline and knowing that they were cheering for us kind of no matter what, that just made me like shake it off and like, you know, take a Michael Pang approach to it and just like think about the sky and all the beautiful grass.
They were playing quite well. Bankroll.
No, very much so. When we had a few point lead, I was excited. I mean, I was like, all right, cool, because like I'm a kind of a nervous person. I think everyone is, but I'm definitely a very nervous person, and so. When they started coming back, and I've kind of told them this, that like Ultimate is it's like basketball, where it's a game of runs. Exactly. I mean, I remember one of the first championships I ever saw was when Fury came back on Riot, and I think they were up like 12-1 or 12-2, and then they came back to win the finals 15-13, and it's like, wow, like that is amazing. You don't see that in many sports, but it does happen, and this is that sport that it does because of that ebb and flow. There's something weird in the air that makes you either like, hey, we're gonna do this, or we are not. Right. And so when they started taking a few points, and strategically we were putting on like the A line, the starters, and they were getting broken and they were getting scored on. And so that was kind of a tough feeling. That was a tough feeling. And then when they took half, It was just like, okay, they got their run in, and they played really well. They played a spectacular first half. It was almost flawless. I can't even think of a turnover. The sky that one of our kids, Jordan, got skied on by, we were trying to... Amanze was...
Alaru.
Yeah, don't be mad, Amanze.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, we love you.
Yes, it was a great grab. It was a sick grab.
It was amazing. And so there's definitely times in those finals, those it factors, those it moments that... that those are the things that sometimes your championship is built off of. And so you see things like when the New York Giants beat the Patriots on their, like, when they were with a 16-0 run, and the Giants receiver goes up and catches it off of his own helmet. Like, he kept one-handed, catches the ball on his helmet. It's like, that wouldn't happen 99 out of 100 times, but you got it that one time. There's that it factor and that whatever that it thing is. So when they were coming back and then he got that amazing sky on one of our most athletic players, I was like, oh man, like maybe this is their game. They're playing the best game they're going to all weekend, and they decide to do it in the finals. And
that particular point happened in the middle of the game because you almost had a Callahan on your end.
Oh,
they
yeah.
went full field. And it was one of these ones that you could look at it going, maybe it was their game, their A game, or you know what, they got away with one. I mean, there's a number of ways to look at that.
Definitely.
Because you were all over that. Mm-hmm. And it was just a freak turn of events.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was cool. Me and the other Seattle coaches were dying on the sideline of how amazing it is. Because I'm not mad as a competitor. I'm in awe as a spectator of how great that was.
True. And it was interesting if you go back, look at the sideline. The spectators along, they were all casually looking, and they bolted up like, oh. So that was very funny.
Yeah, no, it was nuts.
so you get out of halftime, and I hate winning and losing half because there's always time to I love a short half so you can jump back in.
Yeah.
Especially if maybe you're losing, you want to get back out there and do it. But maybe you just want, as a coach, you just want to calm everybody's nerves. Yeah. So they go out and they score again. Mm-hmm. But then you get this run. Mm-hmm. So it seemed to be short memory. I'm checking all the players going, are there nerves? Mm-hmm. No one played hero ball. There was room in there for a team to go into hero ball and trying to get back, like they're able to shoot threes. We're going to get all 5 points back in one shot.
Yeah.
So the mentality of the team was not hero ball. You played your game. You played your system.
Well, I remember on the sideline, because I played mostly D-line, all D-line, getting slightly pissed at our O-line because I was like, come on, guys, like, you're like nothing like personal, but just like this like kind of sense of like, what the hell? Like we've like have like couple turns in a row. I'm pretty like 2 or 3. Like I'm also on the sideline going like this can't be happening.
Helen's our supportive team.
Yeah, very much so.
And realistic.
Yeah. But so like when I got on the line for D-line, I remember saying like, if O-line can't do this, like we're gonna do this. We're gonna do this like point by point. And so it wasn't like looking at like trying to get like 5 in a row. Like you said, it's like this point. We're gonna stop them. Like we're not gonna let them get another like turn on, like get another point on us. And so that kind of just went the rest of the game. I don't remember like how the score was going. I just remember like being on the field going, "There's no way we're gonna let this happen."
There was solid play throughout. You just went back and started exchanging points. You leveled it at it was 11 eventually, but you were right there. You narrowed it to 1, and then you got in a situation where I think they started sensing the nerves, and there's a number of situations where lockdown D one at a time, the D went up, the intensity went up, and I think the nerves went up because they started making a lot of unforced errors or even forced errors. But it was very interesting. So, what was your feeling when you were going back and forth? You were able to right the ship at 11.
I mean, I think that was a mentality we had the whole game, like the whole tournament, was that we took it 1 point at a time as a team. We weren't ever like, oh, if we score 3 more points, we win this game, and we go to quarters or we go to finals or whatever. It's always like, this is the next point. And so it's like when we would score, it was so exciting because we had just scored a point. And then there was another point to play, and it was like we forgot about that last point, and then we just focused on that point. And I think that's how the sideline felt. Like, I was never looking at the score and being like, okay, we have to score 3 points now, and if they score a break, then we have to go, no.
I like that. No, that's a good idea.
Well, I think that comes from like our past experiences, because the 2 years ago game, our very first final against DC Swing Vote, we were up by 2 or 3 points going into the 1 point that we needed. So I want to say that we were up 14-12 or 14-13, and then we were receiving the disc, and then we turned it and they scored, and then we did it again and they scored, and then they went and they finished. And so, I think that I would imagine that like Robin and I at least, and then Helen got to be a part of it last year. We've been there where we've been a few points ahead, or like so, and then we've lost it. So we've been there, and it's. Thinking about those few points ahead just doesn't do anything, because you need that point right then and there.
Right.
And living in that moment means way more than the moment that could happen in 5-10 minutes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm still going to nitpick just for the people who are maybe your teammates are watching. This is actually for future reference. You look at the video, but I really want to look at the different plays. So there was a time where you ran your O, but there was a time where Michael Pang made a D. Due to Robin, it was almost like a fast break. It went to, did it go to, you had a D, then you had, I think Jeremy picked it up, threw to you, then you threw to Michael. You bookended that.
Yeah.
Yep.
What, you didn't, that was like your first and only sort of fast break.
Yeah.
Like you came up, because normally I could see, be chill.
I remember being terrified when Jeremy threw that to me.
Yeah,
I was like, what are you
aggressive,
doing?
Yeah. So, and then you came up and you threw a dime to Michael, but that was one of the ones that you played a very methodical way. So that was just sort of an organic thing to do, or you just definitely started putting your foot to the pedal?
Well, I think at that point, like Jeremy's a pretty aggressive offensive player as it is. I mean, there was a point where like Jordan could have easily just ran to the end zone. He could have thrown it to him, but Jeremy decides to throw this like IO blade that goes like 20 feet in the air for Jordan to like sit on and wait under to get. And so it was kind of cheeky and fun. And I think, we kind of normally play a methodical undercut style of offense. We try to play off of like the undercut sets up the deeps, but I would say that 85% of our goals are based off of an undercutting offense. So that just kind of organically opened up. They found the wide open players, and I think that they've a few of them have been comfortable for so many years. Jeremy and you, this is your third year playing cows together, I think. Mike has been on the team. This is his second year. So I think something like that, where they had last year's experience. They have the tournament they've already gone through, and they have this trust in each other that if I throw the disc to whoever it is, they're going to bring it in, and then we are going to move it from there. So to me, it seemed like it was just pretty organic. There was no play call or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, like it just felt like there was the space to do it. And I mean, we've all played so much Ultimate, and we played so many different styles. Like pickup, it's a lot of just like dishy stuff, and so. Yeah, it wasn't like we were thinking about like, oh, we're going to fast break this. It was just like, oh, we have the space to do it. We're just going to play ulti.
It was a nice quick transition.
And even in that point that we're talking about, I think that was the same point where we decided to play. Like I think you were popping, or so you were playing a cup player in the front, and then Mike was on mark on his male player, and he just was like fronting his player.
That might have been the point where. There was one point where we were like, this isn't really working. We need to like set something different.
Yeah, where did you pull that zone thing out of?
Yeah, that's just where, so this came from that. So we were like, we're going to have like man on the handlers, and then like Poachy like downfield. But they ran a side stack with only 2 handlers, and we had 3 like coming down. And so I was the person with no one. And so we kind of just faked it, and it worked. Because I was just kind of like roaming around. Like you see me just kind of running around the field, like looking at open people. It was complete trash, to be honest. We only did it once, but we did it
twice, but it only worked once.
Yeah, it worked the first time. The trashy look worked, so kids do trashy junk defense. Yeah. But it was just one of those things where it was like, something needs to change. Let's try this, and then you just kind of like. We didn't set up the way we wanted to, so we just kind of had to make it work kind of thing, like kind of just like talk to each other, be like, well, I'm in this space, you have those players type of thing, and hope it worked out.
And that was brought up too. That was brought up by Helen. Like Helen came to me on the sideline and was like, "Geoff, this isn't working. What do you think about this?" And I was like, "That sounds great. Go on the line and tell your teammates how you want to run."
Actually, I thought it looked good. I thought
Yeah,
it
me
actually
too.
looked
Yay!
like it's a fun.
Good.
Junkie is quite sophisticated, I believe, because there's a level of trust because it looks chaotic, and that's from an offensive player trying to decipher, looking for familiar points. Okay, my man's open, poach, but is he really? And my person's over here. So no, it looked great. So yes, I saw you sort of running around trying to figure it out, but it looked really nice. So I'm wondering. In that situation, that was your players coming to you. Okay, I was asking about because the junkie D, I was pretty cool.
I mean, we normally play a clam, like a 3-3-1 clam, just straight up zone. That's like our bread and butter zone, and it has been for a couple of years. So I think that it was a pretty easy defense for them to think about because we're so used to that style of zone that just taking half the players and just telling them to go play man, I think seems to be pretty just obvious and easy for them to just adapt to.
It was very cool to see. And so we get down into a couple of points 12 and 13. You have sort of a dominator situation with Max Barr and wasn't it?
Yeah.
Wasn't it Max? Was it Max Barr and Jeremy? Wasn't it? Who was on the line to the dominator when Jeremy ended up scoring? That was Michael.
Oh yeah, it would be Mike and Jeremy.
So you had Michael and Jeremy, and then you come back and you have Talia and Athena, and that was really nice to see back to back. And when the announcer was talking about how it was good that none of the guys wanted to come in and try to dominate the point, they let the organic nature of the two women play out. And do you recall that point? She broke an ankle and went in for the score.
Yeah, I think I was on the sideline, watching that.
That was really cool. Both those were really cool. Of course, Jeremy did a dance like 5 multiple cuts and should have cleared maybe. But other than that, But it was,
Jeremy, I hope you're watching right now.
Eventually,
Get out of the way.
Hashtag clear.
Please, hashtag clear. Exactly. But one, 4 stomachs, 1 love. But it was interesting that Talia was
4
made a
stomachs,
great.
1 cut.
Very nice. I like that. Very nice.
That's in Jersey next year.
Exactly. So, but it was nice to see the that happen on back-to-back points, and then the final point you had 2 boys touch the disc, and then it goes down to wasn't it 2 and 2?
That's the thing where you bring up all these genders. Honestly,
this is good.
We don't even think
I don't
about
know.
that.
Thank you, because I'm looking at it from. And I like mixed, but I'm looking at different filters in different ways. So thank you for bringing that up. But it was a level of trust because you made a cut. Your cut. Were you clearing? Were you cutting the cut?
Fully
As I was looking at
unexpected throw from
yes,
Jasper.
It looked
Jasper. My cut was. I kind of just came to the inside, make the deep cut, just as a second thought, this is what I should do. And then he actually threw it before I looked at it. So I had actually no idea it was coming until I looked up and saw it in the air and was like, oh boy.
Did you hear the up calls? Is that when you got?
I mean,
it's
just kind of screaming. So I don't. Gonna be honest, I don't hear up calls. Up calls aren't really a thing because they're just screaming all the time. But I mean, yeah, it was unexpected.
So, and I bring this up. Correct me if I'm wrong, and thank you for bringing it up. Is that's a cut that a guy would normally, in a lot of situations, if not even may have looked off a woman. Fearless, beautiful, just great hands and great gloves, by the way. She'll be pimping them later down the road.
Oops,
so I know we got a little bit of time.
Yeah, it
was a great catch. And so you catch the disc, you come up, you're on the ground, very dramatic.
I was so relieved it was over. I was just the stress from the entire weekend. It's I was just so relieved because actually I didn't know his final point until halfway through that. It was 14-11 or something like that. I looked at the scoreboard and was like, oh, it's 14-11. That's interesting. So there was been a solid chance that if I hadn't looked at the scoreboard, I would not have known that was the final point. So it's a good thing I did because it would have been a little weird. But it was. Yeah, just relief and happiness and wow, we finally did it.
It was very nice, and it was nice. And to your point, you thought every time you watch, you think you're going to win. That's very interesting. And all of a sudden, you quietly pulled away. I mean, not even quietly, you definitively. There was a level of just your savviness, the maturity, the level of your game was just unflappable. No one was going for home run balls. I mean, that was a beautiful throw, but no one was trying to get all the points back in one point.
Yeah.
And that was interesting. Whereas you could see Bankroll was trying to be. There was a level of hero-ness, little nerves and stuff. So it was impressive to watch. So. Yeah. Let me put words in your mouth. It must be nice to know that you've got the camaraderie of this team. You can look at each other and go, we won. You know, little nice little stories you can tell with one another. How is that when you see your teammates? Have you run into many of your teammates? This is the first time you've seen Robin since?
No.
I don't think so.
I don't.
And that's why you're probably annoyed. You again? Really?
Yeah, we tolerate each other a lot.
She sent me a heart emoji actually once, by the way.
Yeah.
That's all the
We
love
show
she can
love.
show.
Yeah.
Through text.
The emotional way to do that.
Yeah.
And so rattle off some of the players that were, I mean, you've got a deep roster. I want you to rattle off the players, and you've got your assistant coach as well. But talk about the players that stepped up. I want to know, Lauren stepped up large. Athena stepped up large. Jeremy was all over the place. And Michael Penny.
Yeah, well, you know what's funny is that there's a point where Lauren gets a layout grab on an inside, yes, and she comes down pretty hard. Right. And so when she gets down, last year I probably would have been freaking out like, oh man, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? And then this year I was like, oh wait, Athena's on the sideline? Ha, sweet, cool.
That was like not fair. I'm like, this is so cool, right?
No, 100%. So it was like I get to replace maybe the best receiver with the best thrower with the disc in her hand. Yeah. And so it was definitely a better. It made it a little calmer. Watching one of my players be injured is not necessarily a great thing, but knowing that your bench is so strong. And that they're so confident, and especially a player like Athena, who is just 16, just came off from playing U17 Belly of the Beast last year, and then this year we get to finally have her as a cow, and it was just amazing to watch her progression through the year, and then just to really step up at the tournament in that final. So it was really fun.
Before we run out of time, I wanted to bring up a couple other people. Max Barr played solid. Just unflappable.
And those short shorts.
No, they were lovely. I think that he was borrowing Joe Barr's shorts. Emily Goodwin made a sick layout. I'm sorry.
That Max Barr deed.
Exactly.
Max Barr layout deed.
Yeah, I wanted to give you some love only on that one. And then Leonard, of course. Leonard came
D.
up. That was a sick D. Ladies were talking about the D when he came up to you, tipped it. That was great. That showed tenacity. Definitely in the clutch. I love it. Wanted to point that out.
He's really funny on roller coasters, by the way.
That's what we heard.
We thought you had no shot on that D, by the way. We had no faith.
So congrats. That was lovely.
But you know what's funny is I think that we definitely had all year we broke up into D-line and O-line, and so it was kind of like the D-line was the starters and the O-line were kind of the bench players. And the thing that you notice about in those final 4 points is really the bench stepping up and really taking over. So the team or the squad that scored the final point in a way was kind of the bench players. Max Barr had been playing really well, but he